Welcome everyone. Today we're going to be learning how to create movements for our 2D character. On my desktop here, I have my 2D character design, which was made in Photoshop. First thing we're going to do is right click on it and make a duplicate. We're making two copies so that if we make a mistake on this one, we always have our original to go back to. Right click and rename this to Character Design Movement 1 and press enter. Now right click, open with Photoshop. Now that I have this open in Photoshop, I'm going to delete the scan layer because we no longer need this. And now I'm going to merge all of these layers together. So clicking on the top one, holding down Shift and clicking the bottom so that all of these layers are selected. Now right click and choose Merge Layers. Rename this layer to Movement 1.1 and press enter. Now click and drag this layer down to this icon here to make a duplicate of it. Rename this layer to Movement 1.2 and press enter. On my Movement 1.1 layer, I'm going to reduce the opacity here down to about 40 or so %. And then if I click the eye off on Movement 1.2, I can see my original character is there, but it's not going to get in the way. Turn the eye back on this layer, and with my movement, I'm going to make the arms here move up and down. First of all, I'm going to go up to this tool here, the lasso tool, zooming in, pressing Command and the plus sign, and holding down the space bar for the hand to move around my document. Using my lasso tool, I'm going to cut my arm so that we can move it to another position. My selection doesn't have to be perfect around the outside. It only needs to look fairly clean here because I still want my body there to look pretty normal, and then we can adjust this part later on. So now that I have my selection, and once I made my selection, I went all the way back up to the beginning so that it is now got these marching ants there. I'm going to right click and say Layer via Cut. Now if I use this tool, my Move tool, I can see that my arm is its own separate layer here, down here as well. I'm going to turn that eye off on Movement 1.1, it's a bit distracting. Now with this layer, I'm going to go to Edit, Free Transform. This now has put a bounding box around my arm here, and I'm going to rotate it, grabbing the corner and holding down Shift and move it to where I want it to go. You can also resize the arm, make it bigger or smaller. When you're happy with your selection, click the tick. I don't want my arm to have this big gap here, so using my brush tool over here and using my eyedropper tool, I'm going to select the color that I want and brush in the outline of my arm. Now it looks like my arm is where it should be. Make sure to clean up with your eraser tool little parts like this that are sticking out. It may be on your Movement 1.2 layer. I'm happy with how my arm looks, so I'm going to merge these two layers together. I held down Shift to select both of them, right click, merge layers. I'm going to just rename this back to movement 1.2. Do the same with your other arm or the element that you've chosen. Use the lasso tool to make a selection roughly where there is nothing connecting, and then when you get to a connecting part, go slower so you don't have to do as much work for yourself. Once it's made a selection, right click, layer via cut, and with my move tool I can see that it's separate. I'm going to go up to edit, transform, rotate the arm, move it to where I want it to be, press the tick, and then using my brush tool again and my eyedropper, I'm going to select the color and paint the arm back in. On my movement 1.2 layer, I'm going to use the eraser tool again and clean up these little parts when I use the lasso tool. Now hold down Shift, select both these layers, right click, merge layers, rename back to movement 1.2, and if you press Command 0 to see your whole character, we can see the movement. Turning this eye layer back on, I can see there that's where my arms were. If I move the opacity all the way back up, I can turn the eye off and on to see how my character will move.